President Trump is meeting with Italy's leaders this morning after his highly anticipated visit with Pope Francis at the Vatican. Their private half-hour meeting began with a handshake. The president and the Pope put aside their previous clashes to send a message of peace. Margaret Brennan is traveling with the president in Rome. Margaret, good morning.
Good morning. Well, the Holy See visit caps President Trump's tour of the capitals of the three great monotheistic religion. Every president since Eisenhower has gotten a private audience with the Holy Father, but Pope Francis and President Trump are two unique and starkly different leaders. Swiss guards saluted President Trump and the First Lady as they arrived for a face-to-face meeting with Pope Francis at the Apostolic Palace. Mr. Trump introduced his sizable entourage, including daughter Ivanka and son-in-law Jared Kushner. The polite papal encounter was a sharp contrast to their clashes during the campaign.
For a religious leader to question a person's faith is disgraceful.
When asked about the border wall proposal, Pope Francis said it is not Christian to build walls instead of bridges. Mr. Trump fired back.
I don't like fighting with the Pope, actually. I don't think this is a fight.
The two leaders also have diametrically opposed views on many issues.
We will suspend the Syrian refugee program.
President Trump tried to ban Syrian refugees, while Pope Francis personally took in 12 Muslims who had washed up on Greek shores to Rome on his papal plane. When asked about their upcoming meeting, Pope Francis said, quote, "I never make a judgment about a person without listening to them." After today's 30-minute closed-door meeting, the Pope appeared to give a gentle nudge to change the president's mind on climate change, which Mr. Trump has previously called a hoax, presenting him with 3 books, including one he described as focusing on care of our common home, the environment. Mr. Trump gifted him a custom-bound set of the writings of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
Iconic landmarks like New York's Empire State Building went dark to show solidarity. The Eiffel Tower in Paris and Rome's Colosseum that you see there also turned off their lights.
We also saw the Orlando Eye Ferris wheel was illuminated with the colors of the British flag. And in Dubai, the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building, was lit up. Look at this with the Union Jack. Beautifully done.
By the thousands, they came, not only to mourn the victims, but to also send a message to terrorists.
You cannot defeat us because love, in the end, is always stronger than hate.
That love was on display almost immediately after the explosion.
And I've heard some tremendous stories of doctors coming in to support, of police officers, ambulance workers giving up their days and turning up to help those in need.
By Tuesday, some of Monday night's sorrows had been transformed into a resolute sense of civic pride.
Always remember, never forget, forever Manchester. Choose love, Manchester. Thank you.
We live in an era of security. Every year, we sacrifice more rights, more freedoms, and more privacy for a little security. And here's the payoff. For years, visitors complained about the lack of proper security at Manchester Arena. While some described purely superficial checks, others claimed their bags weren't inspected at all. And these complaints were written even as terror and bombings savaged Europe. You'd think that was warning enough.
We were at the Ariana Grande concert, just exited when the bank went off. People were panicking. There were only bag check, nothing else.
I was at the arena in Manchester, and they only check your bag, not you, and anyone can walk in with things under a coat.
It's not just Britain. It's all of Europe. Despite the hundreds of billions it spends yearly on spying, on surveillance, on security and policing, they've failed. Again and again and again.
The security perimeter remains in place outside Manchester Arena. Armed police patrolling the streets are being replaced by members of the British military. after the UK raised its terror alert from severe to critical, its highest level.
It allows the police to be supported effectively by the troops. So yes, people are likely to see some military on the streets, and I would hope that they will support us in this effort.
The plan, codenamed Operation Temporer, allows for up to 5,000 soldiers to be deployed across the country, freeing up police officers to carry out anti-terror operations.
Moving on with the news, France is to prolong the state of emergency in the country following the Manchester bombing.
The state of emergency, which was extended to preserve our democracy by ensuring the smooth running of the presidential and legislative elections, will stay in force until July 15th. The president asked us this morning to prepare an extension of this state of emergency.
French President Emmanuel Macron has proposed an extension to the French Parliament. Reports say that Macron is also seeking new legislation to permanently strengthen France's security forces. If French lawmakers approve Élysées' request, it would be the 6th extension of the state of emergency, giving police exceptional powers. The emergency state was first introduced after a terror attack killed 130 people in Paris in 2015. Meanwhile, the French Interior Minister Gérard Collomb has said that the bomber behind the Manchester attack, Salman Abedi, had links to Daesh Takfiri terrorists.
Based on intelligence shared by the British, a U.S. government official tells Fox News that the evidence strongly suggests the 22-year-old suspect was coached and trained for the operation either online or by a terrorist operative. The officials say key elements of the plot show experience and premeditation, calling the bomb's explosion at the concert hall's high-traffic exit perfect placement, designed to maximize casualties. And this morning, a special advisor to President Trump offered this assessment.
We're not going to second guess our British cousins, but the fact is there seems to be a broader circle of individuals of interest. An attack is this successful, it's almost always a group of individuals, a network, and a person who's been trained outside of the country where the attack occurred.
Extensive searches are continuing at this hour across Manchester after reports that the suspect was not the bomb maker, but a mule who carried the device to the target, the concert on Monday. Investigators are also combing through the suspect's travel history with a new reporting that he may have traveled to Syria and confirmation that he was recently in Libya. Jenna.
Interesting. Libya is the big news of this hour. Catherine, what are your contacts saying about the significance of Libya in this attack?
Look, Libya most recently has been a hub for ISIS, but it has a very long history as the base for a group called the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group, or LIFG. This is an al-Qaeda-related organization, and we had reporting out of Libya this morning from a former security official in that country that the suspect's father was a member of the LIFG. What's important to note about the LIFG is that the data shows that it is the single greatest group that contributes suicide bombers to Syria and Iraq. So they are extremely active, and the arrests in Libya appear to be extremely important in the next chapter of this story.
So that terror attack in Manchester once again bringing to the forefront the issue of travel restrictions from predominantly Muslim countries. The parents of 22-year-old Salman Abedi were refugees from Libya, one of the 6 countries mentioned in the president's order, which has been stalled in the courts. The refugee crisis, a topic of discussion this morning between President Trump and Pope Francis.
Immigration itself did not come up. Migration has come up because of the real challenge that Italy in particular faces with migration out of North Africa.
The independence of Kurdish Iraq is just a matter of time. At least that's the message from the head of the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency. The announcement comes just weeks after Iraq's Kurds announced plans to hold an independence referendum later this year once Islamic State is defeated.
Kurdish independence is on a trajectory where it is probably not if, but when.
Earlier this month, President Trump authorized the Pentagon to provide heavy military equipment to the U.S. allied Syrian Kurds as they prepare to retake the Islamic State stronghold of Raqqa. They provided weapons including mortars, heavy machine guns, anti-tank weapons and armored vehicles. The decision has angered Turkey, which views Kurdish military groups as terrorists, and Ankara refuses to join forces with them against ISIL. Sayed Matalabi, leader of the Iraqi State of Law Coalition, Washington believes that there are huge geopolitical interests in the Iraqi Kurdish area.
If we look on the map of the world, we can see only the state of Israel that are keen on having a very active relationship with Kurdistan in Iraq, and are very keen to see an independent Kurdistan, a Kurdish state in northern Iraq. Therefore, we do believe that the Americans would play whatever card the Israelis will put forward. And the Americans, within their interest to have a pro-Israeli ally within the north of Iraq, on the neighboring the state of Iran, and on the south of Turkey, and of course north of the state of Iraq. So from the geopolitical point of view, it is very beneficial for the Americans to have an ally and maybe advanced military stations or bases inside Kurdistan.
2 Chinese language teachers have been kidnapped in Quetta in Pakistan. Officials say armed men ambushed the couple's car, shot and injured the driver, then kidnapped Chinese teachers. Police also confirmed that another Chinese woman narrowly escaped the kidnappers at another language centre in the city.
Heavily armed troops keep a watchful eye at checkpoints across the Philippines' Mindanao region. They're on high alert after martial law went into effect on Tuesday as extremist Muslim militias rampaged through the city of Marawi, causing thousands to flee.
We want to hide. There were a lot of Islamic State group militants there.
We came from Marawi City and we left because of the chaos. We'll stay in Iligan City for now.
Islamist militancy isn't new to the Philippines. The nation has struggled with a decades-long separatist insurgency in the south that's left over 120,000 people dead. However, this time round, at least 2 militias have declared allegiance to the Islamic State group and been cooperating with each other. With Marawi itself largely sealed off, ordinary Filipinos were standing firmly behind authorities and President Rodrigo Duterte, who staked his political career on resolving the situation.
As president, if I cannot confront them, I will resign. If I am incompetent and incapable of keeping order in this country, let me step down and give the job to somebody else.
A combative Duterte has threatened martial law in the past to deal with many issues, including illegal drugs. While the Constitution limits its use to 60 days, the president has warned he could ignore such safeguards and keep it in effect for up to a year. For critics, that's raised the spectre of potential abuse and bitter memories of 9 years of martial law under dictator Ferdinand Marcos a generation ago.
ISIS occupied a province in Mindanao, and there is still fighting going on. And I have to go home because I should be there at this time. I come here to seek your friendship and to trade and establish trade and commerce with your country. I'm sorry if I'm in a hurry up, but I need to buy. If you can grant me a soft loan, or if I have the money and pay right away, because the arms that we ordered from America was cancelled, and I'm having a problem now with the ISIS. There's a rebellion in there.
Я хочу в начале нашей беседы выразить соболезнования в связи с гибелью людей в вашей стране, которая произошла вследствие террористической атаки. Я и мои коллеги, мы с полным пониманием относимся к тому, что вы вынуждены вернуться срочно на родину. Хочу выразить надежду на то, что конфликт, о котором вы сейчас сказали, будет как можно быстрее урегулирован с наименьшими потерями.
Russia has made plans to officially roll out its new state-of-the-art main battle tank. The T-14 Armata is slated to become operational in 2020, entering service with the 1st Guards Tank Regiment of the 2nd Guards Tamamenskaya Motor Rifle Division based outside Moscow. The T-14, which was first revealed in 2015, is Russia's first main battle tank developed since the collapse of the Soviet Union. Russia originally announced plans to build 2,300 armadas by 2025. However, that plan has been quashed by the country's declining defense budget. Western-imposed sanctions over Russia's annexation of Crimea have also reportedly led to manufacturing delays, as parts such as LCD displays for tank crews are not made domestically and must be imported from foreign sources.
On Wednesday, China claimed that no one has the right to bring chaos to the Korean peninsula, just one day after it pushed for full implementation of UN sanctions against North Korea following the country's continued missile and nuclear tests. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi told reporters, "No matter which party it is, no one has the right to bring war and chaos upon the peninsula." The U.S. has been trying to persuade China to increase efforts to rein in Pyongyang, which has conducted dozens of missile launches and tested 2 nuclear bombs since the start of last year. U.S. President Donald Trump has warned that a major conflict with North Korea remains a possibility and that all options are on the table, but that he wants to resolve the crisis diplomatically.
South Korea's military fired warning shots upon an unidentified flying object that crossed over the border from North Korea. On May 23rd, the object crossed the military demarcation line that serves as a border between the two countries. Military sources say the flying object may have been a drone. Yonhap News Agency reported that soldiers fired 90 machine gun rounds as warning shots. The Korean Joint Chiefs of Staff also said they sent 3 warning broadcasts toward the north. The Joint Chiefs issued a statement saying they are analyzing the object and improving their air defenses. North Korea has previously flown drones over the border with a similar incident involving warning shots last year. And in 2014, several small North Korean drones were found crashed south of the border. This incident comes just days after North Korea conducted yet another ballistic missile test, further increasing tensions on the peninsula.
On Tuesday, the Democratic Republic of the Congo moved one step closer to using an unlicensed vaccine to battle an Ebola outbreak that emerged last month in the remote northeast of the country. The country's government has submitted a formal vaccine trial protocol, developed with the Paris-based research branch of Doctors Without Borders, to an ethical review board. According to an official at the World Health Organization, if the plan is approved, the vaccine could go into use within the next 2 weeks. So far, it remains unclear whether the shots will actually be needed, as only 2 cases of Ebola have been confirmed and 41 suspected or probable cases reported. With samples from several dozen suspected cases testing negative, hopes remain high that the outbreak may be quite small and perhaps already nearing the end.
According to a state transportation official, on Wednesday, a section of California's iconic coastal highway will remain closed for months following a massive landslide over the weekend. The slide, which was said to be the largest in decades, dropped debris along a section of State Route 1 about 100 miles south of San Jose. Caltrans spokesman Colin Jones said in a statement Wednesday, "I think it's safe to say it will be several months before it reopens. We haven't even been able to get in and assess the damage and come up with a plan." Jones then went on to add that rerouting the road entirely around the damaged section is not off the table.
After decades of fighting, Taiwan's gay rights activists have won a major battle. The Constitutional Court has just ruled gay marriage must be legalized. A few years ago, homosexuals were arrested for even asking to get married.
I think gay marriage is right. From when I was a young 28-year-old to the 59-year-old I am today, it's been more than 30 years. So I don't think I'll have a shred of hesitation or regret. I think if something's right, it's worth fighting for, your whole life.
The latest petition from activists argued that Taiwan's civil code limiting marriage to heterosexuals is unconstitutional because the Constitution guarantees equal marriage rights for all. The community was cautiously optimistic because Taiwan's authorities are the most progressive they've ever been. The ruling party and president are in favor of gay marriage, and the president has appointed 7 of the court's 15 judges. But many in Taiwan are still opposed to same-sex marriage.
Pushing ahead with the law is only the first step, and it will bring down the last defense of our ethics. If this last defense is destroyed, how does humanity move forward in the future?
Taiwan is the first place in Asia to legalize same-sex marriage. Activists in the continent's most progressive countries like Japan and South Korea hope their governments will follow the example.
Robocops may not be completely science fiction anymore. The Dubai Police Department has inducted its first operational robotic police officer on May 21st. It's 5 feet 5 inches tall, weighs 100 kilograms, and can speak 6 languages. But this Robocop isn't going around arresting criminals yet. People can use its touchscreen interface, though, to report crimes, pay traffic violations, and submit paperwork. It can also read faces, meaning Dubai police can use Robocop to identify suspected criminals. Its facial recognition software can also be used to identify people's facial expressions. So if someone looks sad or scared when they approach Robocop, it will respond accordingly to calm that person down. Gulf News reports Dubai plans on having 25% of its police force be robotic by 2030. Dubai is hoping that at that point, Robocops will have the capability to patrol streets and arrest people just like human officers do.
Ну вот робот пытается на меня прям наехать, гад. Робот. Убегать. Он охотится на людей.
Who is running after who?
Yeah, he's chasing me.
These days, we not only use passwords for verification, from fingerprints to iris, veins, and the whole face even. Our physical features have come in handy in that respect. There still are many other body parts with potential to serve that purpose.
Paying for your groceries using your eyes, hands, or face. This might seem like something from the distant future. But with the world's information and communication technology developing to an ever higher level, state-of-the-art technology is already penetrating our daily lives. Just last week, Korea's retail giant Lotte Group opened an unmanned convenience store at Lotte World Tower in Seoul's eastern Jamsil area. Everything here is the same as in regular convenience stores, except that the customers themselves make payment possible. And that's not with cash nor credit card.
This is the new HandPay system, and it makes paying as simple as can be. Just put your palm onto the laser scanner. It scans your veins and sends the payment through.
After customers place their items on the counter, a scanner reads the barcodes and the total price appears. Customers type in their cell phone number and have their palms read by another scanner. Payment completed. This is the first offline store in the world that enables payment through vein authentication. Customers first need to get their vein patterns registered and saved on the Lotte Card server. These patterns are then linked to their credit card information. Banks in Korea are also turning to the use of iris scanning for their clients' self-verification on mobile apps. In case of Shinhan Bank, iris scanning is used for simple logins or personal authentication certificates. The user's iris data is kept in a storage area on the smartphone's software, making a data leak almost impossible. Korea's biometrics market has grown by almost 20% every year to hit over $400 million in 2018. While biometrics can be used in diverse sectors ranging from finance to healthcare and crime investigation, banks and card firms are most active in adopting this technology in order to keep up with market trends. Biological information is different for everybody and therefore belongs to only one person in the world. But that's also what could potentially cause an irreversible disaster. If the data gets hacked, all dimensions of a person's private information is leaked as well. And unlike passwords, biological information can't be changed. Biometric authentication has risen as a reliable alternative to overcome the security weaknesses of passwords. But there are voices that claim the use of bioinformation isn't 100% secure itself. Measures for maximum security are required more than anything for people to be able to enjoy the coming era of biometric authentication without worry.